Hey guys, and welcome to another No Hands SEO video tutorial. In this video I'm going to be going through the different settings in No Hands SEO. If you've seen previous videos like this and used the latest version of No Hands, you all know that quite a lot has changed. There's been new features added, and things may have been moved around a bit. There's new platforms, new platform types, and obviously all the controls which go along with that. So this video I'm going to be recovering all of the different settings. If you want to jump to the different tabs to find the part of the video for something that you specifically want to know about, then the links are in the description and you can jump straight to that part of the video. Okay, so I don't want to make this quite as long as the last video. It was verging on about 50 minutes, so I'd rather keep this one a bit shorter, so I'm going to get straight into opening No Hands. Now you see there's these different controls along the top toolbar here. Now because I'm going through the settings, I'm going to go straight to the settings tab. Now the first tab is app settings. There's just a few basic settings here. You've got your search provider, either Yahoo, Google, or both. Really the only reason you would change this from both to Google is if you're using public proxies for searching. Say you're using a tool like No Hands Proxies to search and find public proxies, which are great for doing lots of searches, but you'd only be testing for, say, Google, then you'd want to check that for Google. Whereas if you've got private proxies or proxies that you know can be used in both Yahoo, Google, or you're not using proxies at all, you'd want to leave that set as both. Okay, so unless you're using a tool like No Hands Proxies to find these proxies for you, just leave it set on both. If you are using a tool like No Hands Proxies, select Google. Okay, now there's the pinging options here. You can add and remove different ping services. You can put in your own pinging list if you want. Obviously these are the main ping services. You'll be able to find lots of different pinging lists online and people saying why they use their particular list. This is just a list of services which I found to be working and online, and obviously you're going to be notifying the main search engine and blog websites, so you can add to that or leave it as you want. If you don't want to use No Hands pinging option, then you can simply disable the pinging option by unchecking it. It's that simple. Obviously pinging will notify the different search engines that a link has been created and make them update the page that you've the listing for the page that you've submitted your link to. Okay, so unless you're using an indexer or a pinging tool like No Hands Pinger or No Hands Proxies, you may want to just leave that checked. It will mean that you probably will get a few less links each day, but over time you'll get more or less the same amount, and it's always good to notify the search engine that a new link has been posted. Okay, now we have here the anchor variations. What this does is it will vary up the anchor text, and anchor text is the text of your link. So say you posted a link on a website and you're wanting to rank your website for say software, the term software. You would make the word software clickable, and that word software is your anchor text. Okay, but these days search engines, especially Google, want to see a lot of variation in the different anchor text. So they want to not just see, say, 1,000 links with all just one or two different anchor text. They want to see a huge variety, because if say thousands of people are posting your link onto different forums, like, oh, I found this great new resource rating schools or something like that, then no one person really is going to be putting the same anchor text as the next person. Everyone's going to be putting different things, so it's a good idea to keep them varied. Now what these controls will do is they will vary the anchor text for you. Okay, so this first option will vary the posting URL, that's the link, with capitalization. So it will make the domain part of your link, it will randomize, it will capitalize random letters in your domain. It won't change the page part of the address, but it will change the domain. Okay, so that's not massively important, but it does it does add at least a bit of variation, so you may want to check that and put in, say, 10%. So 10% of the time you have a random capitalization in your domain. Vary anchor text with generics. This has generics are words such as website, click here, source, or click to see source, and things like that. If you set that at another 10, or say you may want 20% generics, then 20% of the time something other than your anchor text will be posted, like website or click here or click, different terms like that. I think there's roughly 150, I'd have to check on that, but I think it's roughly 150 different generic anchor texts that can be put in, and these are terms which are often used when your average person will post a link to something, and it really adds a lot of it makes your link profile look a lot more natural. So in the eyes of Google, they're probably more likely to rank your website because your link profile looks a lot more natural because of that. Okay, now the third option is to vary anchor text with domain. So instead of posting a link using your anchor text keyword, it will just use the domain. So say you're using No Hands SEO to promote a YouTube video, you can have, say, and you set that to 10%. 10% of the time, sorry, 90% of the time it will be using your anchor text, as the 10% of the time it will be posting just the word youtube.com. Or say you're promoting your blog on WordPress, say your blog is myblog.wordpress.com, then 10% of the time the anchor text used would be myblog.wordpress.com. Okay, so that's another way that No Hands will automatically add a bit more of a natural look to your linking profile. Okay, vary anchor text with capitalization. Similar to the URL capitalization, the anchor text capitalization will capitalize the anchor text that you've chosen. So say you've got your anchor text as bird watching. I forget the exact percentage, but it's something along the lines of 10% of the time the whole phrase bird watching would be capitalized. I do believe 40% of the time it would be totally lowercase, and 50% of the time it would make the first letter of both of those words capitals. So the B in bird and the W in watching would be capitalized. So that's another way of keeping with the anchor text. So you're still promoting your preferred keywords, but what it means is that you're not having all the exact same anchor text, you're varying it slightly so it all just looks a bit more natural. Okay, so you may want to put that at, say, 20%. And you can also vary the anchor text with names. Now No Hands SEO has it's thousands of names built into it, and when you add in first and last names, the variations become somewhere in the region of 2 billion or 2.5 billion. I actually worked it out the other day, and I can't remember what it is now, but it's in the billions, the variations of it. So what you can do there is you can have No Hands SEO automatically varying the anchor text by entering a random name. This is just something else that normal people, when they're posting a helpful link to someone on a forum or posting a link in their blog, they may use a name when posting back to it. Say they're posting a source, say CEO Sam posted such and such on this forum, and they may link the name. They may make the name the link which posts to the source. So again, you could maybe put that 10%, and all that does is that will vary up the anchor text every time a link is posted with a random name. So put all this together, and what you get is you get a lot of the time your anchor text will be posted, but it will vary the anchor text. You'll get generic anchor text. It will vary the domain for you as well. So all of these things put together really make a very random and natural looking link profile. Okay, it will really prevent any sort of footprint and make everything look far more preferable to the search engines. Okay, now this and the next tab are probably the more complicated of the settings, so that's why there's been quite a lot of time spent on them, but it really does pay to get your head around these anchor text variations. And really, if you don't know what you're doing, just put in, say, 10 20 10 20 10, or all 10s, or somewhere in that region. Try not to make the total of them more than 100%, because then you'll find that your anchor texts are being used less and less. But yeah, you really ought to have some variation of that, and I wouldn't worry too much. Like, I wouldn't think that me putting 10 20 10 20 10 is, you know, that's the figure that you have to use, or that you have to use another one, because I get a lot of emails, people asking what's the best settings, or what's the best this, or what's right or what's wrong. There is no right or wrong, it's just you want to make things look natural, so you want that variation, so it's best to use them than not to use them. So really, if you don't know what to do, just put in figures around that and just leave it at that, and that will really put you in good stead. Okay, the import and export settings, that's fairly self-explanatory. You can export your settings and then import them in another computer, or you can just grab the database file from the your My Documents folder. There'll be a folder called No Hands SEO. In there there's database.db3 file. If you just copy that across to your other computer, that will copy across all of your settings and your profiles and everything, so you won't lose anything. But if you want to just copy the settings, you can export them and then export them to a file, then import them into another computer. So it's rather self-explanatory. Now, every tab in the settings section has a save settings button. You click on it to save and apply the different changes that you've made to the settings. Right, now here's the more tab. Now you see there's quite a lot of options and settings in this area. Now, you don't need to get too worried about it. A lot of them you don't need to use. Most of the settings, as with pretty much everything in No Hands SEO, is optional. If you don't know what they are, you can leave them alone. It's not too big a problem, but there are some which will become really helpful should you choose to use them. Okay, now I'm going to just go through them one by one. The posting or the advanced settings here are relatively important, and they will make a big difference to how No Hands SEO runs, but most of the time you won't need to touch them, but I'll explain what they are anyway. The posting threads, this is how many concurrent jobs for posting links can be done at any one time. Now, most connections will easily be able to handle 20. If you're on a decent computer with a fairly decent internet connection, you could probably pump that up to 50. There's really no huge maximum on that, but really once you start getting above 100 on most domestic internet connections, you're going to start entering the realms of diminishing returns. So really, most cases you're going to be limited by how many searching threads you can do, so the posting threads shouldn't be too much of a worry, but you can have a play around with that. And if you're unsure, there is a test for max thread settings that you can click on that, and then you'll see the thread checker will pop up and it'll go through different threads, and then it will give you an idea of roughly how many threads you can use before you start having failed attempts. Okay, so I'm just going to abort that, but really 20 to 50 is probably about average. Wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, the allowed searching threads, that's quite an important one. If you're using private proxies, and say you've got 100 of them, 100 private proxies, you could probably set that to 10, maybe 20 if you wanted to push it. Ideally, I'd say don't go above sort of 10% of how many private proxies you've got, assuming you're using private proxies, because you don't want those proxies getting temporarily burnt in the search engines. So it's a good idea to sort of leave that at 10% of your proxies. So say you've got 50 proxies, I'd say 5 searching threads. If you've got 100 private proxies, sorry, and 10 searching threads, and go like that. If you don't have any proxies to use, leave that set as 1. There's really no need to change it if you don't have any private proxies or any public proxies to use, so leave that as 1. If you're using public proxies, I'd still stick to about 10%, but you can push it a bit more, because if you're using something like No Hands proxies, then you're going to be sort of circulating the proxies, so you could probably bump it up to 15 or 20% of the proxies, but really sticking to 10%, it's going to keep you from having any real problems. Now the maximum words for search keywords, when you enter in a profile, you enter in your search keywords. When those keywords have been used for searching, No Hands will find its own variations based on those, and based on suggestions from sites like Google, Alexa, Bing, I forget the others. There's 8 or 9 different websites that it will get keyword suggestions from. Now that's great, and it will extend the ability of No Hands to generate links for the different profiles, but what will happen is eventually you'll end up where the different search keywords have got 3, 4 or maybe even 5 words in them, and they're getting really specific words to the point where most of the platforms won't have any targets for those keywords. So what you can do is you can set a maximum, say you only want 2 search keywords, 2 words per search keyword, and you can set it at 2, or you want to make sure that there's no more than 3 words in every search keyword, you can set that, and then No Hands will automatically discard any keyword suggestions above that amount. Okay, so again, it's not something, this really isn't something that you need to worry about. If you're still unsure about what it is or how it's going to affect your running, leave it set at 0. It's not something that by any means is necessary to change, but if you want to use it, it's there for you to use it. Okay, now you've got the 2 timeout options here. These are connection and read-write timeouts. The connection timeout is how long No Hands SEO will give each web request, be it a search, a post, a ping, or anything like that, or a link check. That's how long it will give the web request to respond from the first section of the request. So it's set at 60,000, which is a minute. So you can set it lower if you want things to run faster, but then when you're posting to slower responding websites, you'll get a lot more fails. So really 60 seconds, it's not a bad setting. Again, most of these things, it's not something that you need to change or need to worry about, and if you're really not sure, probably best to leave it as it is. Same with the read-write. Read-write is the time between when the server first responds and when it sends the finished or the end of the response. So 60 seconds, again, it's not like a specific time that has to be 60 seconds. You can change it if you want, but it really isn't something that you need to worry yourself about at all. Now the delay between searches, that's also set at 60 seconds, and what that does is it makes sure that when it is randomized slightly as well for, I think it's 5 seconds either side of that, so as not to be totally obvious that, you know, the searches are being done by a computer. But what that does is it will imitate a human being and sort of prevent your IPs from getting burnt out so quickly. Okay, so you can change that to pretty much anything you want, but I really wouldn't advise setting it any lower than 30 seconds. 60 seconds is quite conservative, but it will prevent getting your IP address from burnt out, and that's really the main thing. Maximum pages for searching. This is how many pages deep to set No Hands to search. So for example, if there are 10 pages of results, No Hands SEO will do each page individually, so you can set that at 10. If you just want to only search the top 2 pages, so you're getting the most relevant backlinks, you can do that, but really I'd probably leave that set at 10 and just be done with it. Okay, now we've got the miscellaneous settings here. These really don't need to be changed, but again, they're there if you want to. You can minimize to system tray so that when you click the minimize button up here, rather than go into your taskbar of all your different programs along the bottom of your screen, it will actually put it into the system tray in the bottom right hand corner, so the icon's hidden away, so you can just get on with your work. Check post for links. Really, I don't know of anybody that unchecks that. If you do, as far as No Hands is concerned, there won't be any links being made because it won't actually be checking the posts that the links have been made. So you're best to leave that checked. The option was requested, it was put in, but personally I can't actually think of anybody ever actually saying that they've used that. Now, broad keyword search is, say you wanted to search for cheese wheels and you went into Google and you put in cheese wheel, that's your average broad keyword search. And you can also do an exact keyword search, which is where you put the quotation marks before and after your keyword. So you'd have open quote, cheese wheel, close quote. Now what that will do is that will make sure that Google or Yahoo is only giving results where the exact term cheese wheel exists on the page, whereas with broad keyword search it will be giving you pages related to cheese wheel, or where the word cheese or wheel appears prominently somewhere on the site with some relation to the others. You can have both done, and what that will do is it will do a search for both the broad and the exact. Now by default it's set to only use the broad keyword search. Now that is because you get far less results with the exact keyword search, and having both of them enabled, really you get a lot of duplicates just for the same searches. So all you end up with is you get a lot of searches with no new targets. So really you're best off having broad keyword search unless you know for a fact that you want exact keyword search. Again, it's one of these things that if you're not entirely sure that you need to change it or use it, just don't. Use gzip compression. That will slightly speed up web requests. You can use it or not, it's not a big deal. It will use slightly less bandwidth as well if you do use that, so you can use that if you want. Auto start on load, that will make, if you have that checked, whenever No Hands starts up, within a few seconds it will automatically start posting. So say you want No Hands, whenever Windows is restarted, you want No Hands to load up, you can set it as a startup option in Windows, and then if you set it to auto start on load, it will also start posting as soon as it's loaded up, so you can always make sure that whenever your computer's turned on that No Hands SEO is running for you. Okay, right, now the prevent posting settings, this is your main quality limitations for your backlinks. So say you only wanted, now I'll start from the top. The outbound links, that is how many links are from a web page to a completely different website. Not links within the same website, but links to a different website. So these could be blog roll links, which post to partner sites. It could be the little link at the bottom of the page which says powered by WordPress, with a link to wordpress.com or something similar to that. It could also be how many comments or posts have been made to a certain page. So ideally, for quality links, you're going to want less outbound links. So you could put in there something like 1,000 if you wanted to weed out all of the heavily spammed sites, or you could set it at 250 if you wanted to make sure that you're only getting good quality links. Now 250 may sound like a lot, but when you factor in that a blog post could have anywhere in the region of 10 to 20 links in the post itself, you could have links to multiple links to Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, Google Plus, all these other social networks and things like that. There could be a link or multiple links to each one of those. There could be blog roll links as well as a few comments and things like that. They all add up, so even if a page does have, say, 200 links on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's been spammed. It just means that the author of the website or the owner of it is good at giving a reference back to the source. So I mean, you can set it lower than that. If you set it less than 250, you're going to be really limiting the amount of links that you're going to be able to get. And that's the only reason that I set it when I use No Hands SEO on my money websites. I will set it at about 250. So that's what I personally use, is 250, because I find that that's a good quality baseline for links. Now, minimum page rank should be self-explanatory. Page rank is a quality metric used by Google, or they use it as a sort of a trust of how much they trust a domain. So you can set that anywhere from -1 will mean that it won't limit based on the page rank at all, or you could set it at anywhere from 0 all the way up to 10. Now, I have seen plenty of links made which are page rank 6, 7. I've seen reports of page ranks all the way up to 9. Now, I'd say they are in the huge minority, or the tiny minority, should I say. So ideally, if you are going to use a page rank, I'd set it at 0, 1, maybe 2, because really anything with any sort of page rank, you know that the website has at least got some age, you know that it's not got any sort of penalties, you know that it's seen as at least somewhat authoritative, and it's got some history in the search engines. So you know that any link above 1 is going to be, or sorry, with any sort of page rank, is going to be at least a decent link. So if you were to set it as a minimum page rank of 1 or 0 with a minimum outbound link of 250, you're going to make sure that you're only going to get good quality links. Okay, so with my profiles which are creating links to one of my websites, I will generally use an outbound link of 250 and either a page rank of 0 or 1. Normally I use 0 because it's unrealistic to have just links from high quality websites. Okay, people are always talking about quality, quality, quality when it comes to links, but you do need some lesser quality links, because otherwise it just won't look like a natural link profile. Now, you can choose to limit page rank based on domain or page. I prefer to use domain because that's obviously the website that the page is hosted on. So to have it set as page, you're just going to be limiting yourself even more. So I always choose domain and leave it at that. Now, prevent posting to root domain. Earlier on, a lot of sites or a lot of users were finding that the submit forms on the home page weren't actually for accepting links, they were more for getting in contact with webmasters, and there was a lot of wasted time spent on trying to post a link to the root page of the domain. So by default the option is to not post to those, so you can uncheck it and attempt posting to every page, but that's entirely up to you. Maximum Alexa rank. Now, the higher Alexa rank is based on traffic. So the top, say, 1,000 websites on the internet based on traffic are in the top 1,000 Alexa rank. So you can actually limit by the Alexa rank. So say you only wanted links from the highest million traffic websites on the internet, you can set that at 1 million, or you could set it up as 10 million or whatever you want. But do be warned that if you set it at anything below about 1 million, you're going to really struggle to get any links, especially relevant to your niche, just because, now I know 1 million sounds like a lot, but in your niche there may be, say, 1,000 to 10,000 websites. Of those, probably maybe half of them will accept a link. I'm talking the really relevant websites to yours, but of those there's probably only a handful in the top million ranked websites, just because there's billions of websites out there. You know, you're talking every niche, every topic you could possibly think of, all throughout the world. All of these websites are included in the Alexa rank. So if you are going to use an Alexa rank, I wouldn't advise going any lower than 1 million, really 10 million, or just don't use it at all. Okay, if you set it at 0, then it will ignore the Alexa rank altogether. Now Moz rank, quite a lot of people were requesting to be able to limit by page authority and domain authority. If you want to do so and you've got a Moz SEO account, then you can put in your API key and your secret ID, and then you can do a minimum page authority or a minimum domain authority, much like you can with the page rank. Okay, you can think of page authority and domain authority like the page rank of a page or a domain, except it's nothing to do with Google, it's all to do with moz.com, and so really it's all down to them as to what website has them. But a page or a domain with a high page authority or domain authority can obviously be an indicator of a high quality link. Personally, I don't use that. I don't use the Alexa rank. I will generally just use the outbound links in the page rank, because I just feel like they're more relevant as far as ranking and being able to tell if a link is quality. Okay, now the other options here are, you've got your capture options. If you want, you can use manual capture solving. What that will do is every time a post is attempted on a website, if there's a capture, it will pop up a little form, and you can fill it in manually and click submit, and then that will be used. Obviously that's very time consuming and means that you will need to sit at your computer and fill in captures all day long to get your links. Or you could use a tool like Capture Sniper. Capture Sniper is a software that's hosted on your computer. When it runs, it will automatically solve a capture for you. It's a one-time payment and is obviously a cheaper, in the long run, a cheaper option to using some of the pay per solve services such as Death by Capture, Image Typers, and so on. Now what it means is it's not quite as accurate as something like Death by Capture or Image Typers, but it is obviously a cheaper option and can actually be quicker, especially compared to Death by Capture, which their solve times can be quite slow these days. So you can use that. You can also set a minimum page rank or a maximum outbound link for using this service. So say you want to be using Death by Capture as your main option, and then you want to be using Image Typers as your secondary option. You can set say no limits for Death by Capture, but you only wanted to attempt a link with Image Typers if the capture on the page is a page rank of 2 and a maximum outbound limit of 50. You can do that, or you can use none. It's entirely up to you as a user. Obviously if you're using something like Capture Sniper or GSA's Capture Breaker, you don't really want to be setting any limits to the quality, because you may as well just get them to solve the capture and attempt the link. Now sometimes Capture Sniper or GSA's Capture Breaker will return back that they couldn't solve a certain capture, so that's when the secondary capture will come into play. And so you could have something hosted on your computer like Capture Sniper, and then have, if Capture Sniper fails, have something like Image Typers as a backup. But that's entirely up to you. Okay, so to apply all these settings, again you click the save button and that will save and apply the settings. Now the debug and the database maintenance you don't really need to worry about. The debug button should only be used if I say basically if you get in touch with me and say, oh, I've got an issue with such and such, and I say, oh well, can you just click the debug button and send back to me the text that it gives you, and that's really all that's used for. the database maintenance. As time goes on, you'll find the database for No Hands SEO builds up and collects posts, keywords, things like that. There may be some traces of profiles that you've used in the past but have since been deleted. Then you can click on database maintenance, and what that will do is it will clear out all of the clutter that's no longer being used or hasn't been used for a very long time. And it will shrink down the database. Well, it will remove the information and shrink down the database, and that will mean that overall the link building will speed up. Okay, so again, it's not really something that's necessary, but if somebody gets in touch with me and says that things are running slow or things aren't quite going how they'd expect, then I might suggest to them to click on the database maintenance button, but really it's not something that you need to do off your own back. So that's one option. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the indexing tab. Now here there are a bunch of options for having your links that have been made sent off to different pinging or indexing services. Now if you have an account with, say, Backlinks Indexer, Linklicious, Indexification, Lindext or Link Centaur, all you need to do is select the option, put in your API key and then save the settings, and then whenever a link is made from No Hands, it will be sent automatically to that indexing service and that link will then be put through whatever processes they do and hopefully get your link indexed quicker. Okay, it's rather easy to set up, just as it is with No Hands Indexer and No Hands Pinger. Say for instance you wanted to disable the pinging within No Hands SEO so that it can spend all of its time just building links as it's intended to do, then you can pick up a free copy of No Hands Pinger from nohandspinger.com, and so long as you have No Hands Pinger installed, you can have the send confirmed links to No Hands Pinger, save the settings, and then whenever a link is made it will be sent to No Hands Pinger. Now No Hands Pinger doesn't have to be open for it to accept the link, but it does have to be open and running for it to load the link in and for it to ping it. Okay, so yeah, you can have that selected and then have No Hands SEO running, and you can build up a list of links and then load up No Hands Pinger and press start, and then it will process all the links, or you can have them both running at the same time. It doesn't really matter. It's the same with the No Hands Indexer. Any link made will be sent to No Hands Indexer and it will be loaded in and indexed whenever you load up No Hands Indexer. You don't need both No Hands SEO and No Hands Indexer loaded at the same time. You don't need to load one first then the other. So long as you have it installed, it will take in that link. Okay, but it's only when No Hands Indexer or No Hands Pinger is loaded up and you press the start button, that's when the links will be processed, they'll be pinged or indexed. Okay, so you still need to open them and press the start button to get them working. You can have them working at the same time as No Hands SEO, or you can have one working after you've run No Hands SEO and built up a list of links. It's really not an issue either way you do it around. They're all made to be as simple as possible. No Hands Indexer you can get from nohandsindexer.com. It's only $20 and it will get your links indexed quicker. No Hands Pinger will ping all of your links. It's totally free from nohandspinger.com. Okay, and that's free for everyone. So if you just want to ping a list of links that you've already got, then you can enter them into No Hands Pinger. You know, they both can be used as separate standalone programs, or they can be used as sort of a helper to No Hands SEO. Okay, so that's really all there is to the indexing. If you have an account with, say, Indexification and you know that you want to use them, you can click on send. If you're not sure what they are, you can click on any of these buttons which say what is and then the name of the indexing software. So you can click on them and it will load up a forum post. Ever so easy, really. So then we'll go to the platform tab. There's a lot of obviously quite a lot of different platforms there, just sorted by when they were added, really. But the they do give a bit of information whether the links created are relevant links, what platform they are. So you've got blogs, image galleries, trackbacks, indexes, you've got forums, we've got link shorteners, we've also got RSS platforms, and soon, in probably a week or so, there's going to be a bunch of article platforms and Web 2.0 platforms that are going to be added. So obviously there will be more platforms in this list very, very soon, but currently there's 81 different platforms in that list. You can enable or disable them. You enable them by ticking the box or disable them by unchecking the box. Very simple. Now, personally, I would not use I wouldn't use the guest books that use pages. I wouldn't really use the forums that use pages. And that's mainly because when you post a link to them, what happens is normally on, say, a blog or a forum or an article site, you post a link to a page and that page has your link on it. When you post to a site that uses pages, you can post a link to the site, and then as new posts are made, your post gets lower and lower down the list to the point where it may go to the second page, and then over time may go to the third page, and so on. And what that means is your link is moving, and I just don't feel that those links are holding the same amount of quality weighting that links that don't move around have. You know, I'd rather have a link on the same page for 6 months than I would for, say, 6 hours. So personally, I'd disable, I'll select uses pages, yes, and then deselect them, and then you find that you've unchecked. It's most of the guest books that are the ones that use the pages, really. Coppermine, some of the sites use pages, others don't, and it's the same for E107 and Asker. But most of the guest books will be giving you lesser quality links, and it's harder to track them. So I'll uncheck those, but personally I don't see anything wrong with having no follow links, just as I don't see anything overly brilliant in having do follow links. Okay, I know some people get really preoccupied with the link must be do follow, it must be do follow, but I really don't think that's the case. I don't think a predominantly do follow link profile looks particularly natural at all, and having an entirely do follow link profile will probably look less natural and just generate some unwanted attention. So I wouldn't use them myself. I'd just leave it. Just personally, I mean, this is all just me. There's no right or wrong necessarily. We don't know exactly what goes into the ranking algorithms at Google, but I do know from past experience that using platforms with pages gives me less of a boost, whereas mixing up with do follows, no follows, relevance, irrelevance, and things like that really does give a very natural looking link profile and will actually give a real good boost. So I'd leave it all as is, except personally I disable the ones that use pages, but mainly the guest books that use pages. Okay, now down here we have whether to post once per domain only or post to deactivated platforms. Now, even though I prefer not to specifically search out guest books that use pages, I've got no problems with posting a link to them if the opportunity arises. So I will leave the post to deactivated platforms enabled, because then when a page for, say, Joomla comments comes up, it will still attempt to post a link to that site, even though the platform is disabled. It just won't search for targets on that platform specifically. Now, post once per domain only, that will mean that you won't be posting multiple times to the same website. Now, what that does is sort of twofold. It means that, one, you're only getting one link from each domain. it means that you're not going to be getting hundreds of links across the same blog, which, you know, some people may want to get that, in which case you can disable that and get as many links as you want. But what it also means is that that's going to look a bit more natural, because it's unlikely that a site is going to naturally link say 10-20 times to your website unless you're affiliated with them. So having multiple links may eventually get those links sort of discounted, so they're not holding as much weight. But another side of the coin is that you may get complaints. Say you're posting repeatedly on, say you're posting a link to every blog post made, or every image that's posted, or something like that, then you may get a complaint from the webmaster. Now, complaints are fairly rare anyway, and the worst that they can do is complain, and that's about it. If they do complain, you can add them to your block list, but ultimately there's not a lot that can happen. It's just, I personally prefer not to piss off a bunch of webmasters, because we're all in the same game, and so just out of decency, and I really don't think that, you know, out of decency, I'll leave it checked, and I really don't think that it adds a huge amount to have lots of links from the same domain. Now, if you want to use a tool such as Scrapebox or Gscraper, or maybe you've got your own search engine ranking pages scraper, you can output the footprints. What that will do is it will create a file with all of the search footprints for your active platforms. So you can output the footprints, load it into Scrapebox or whatever scraper it is that you're using, and away you go. And then it's ever so easy to load in the targets just by right clicking on a profile and then choosing import targets, and there you go. So that option's there if you want to use it. Now, customize footprints, you can add in whatever footprints you want. You can add custom footprints to the default list. This is the default list for your active platforms currently. You can add footprints to those if you have your own footprints. Say you want to add in some edu footprints or something like that, then you can add them in there if you want, or you can replace the default footprints so it only uses your custom ones. Ultimately though, the footprints that are used have been tested time and time again by myself, and they have been sort of deemed to be very good, very usable, and they will get you more backlinks than most of the ones on there. I see online there's lots of lists of footprints, and I've seen people suggesting that people change the footprints in No Hands, and then they get in touch with me asking why they're not getting any links, and then I look at the footprints and it's because they've all been changed, and that's because the footprints are tested regularly. Okay, you know, it's my job to make sure that the footprints that are in No Hands are up to date and they're working, and they're getting the best out of the tool. So I do look at the footprints relatively often, and if you have any suggestions, then you can use you can get in touch with me and suggest them, or you can use them yourself. But if you do change them and you find that you're not getting any links, that's probably the culprit. So you can always just go in and then, you know, remove the changes, just delete the custom footprints and go from there. Okay, we have the RSS RSS platform. Sorry, it's largely the same as the general platforms, except these are specifically for submitting RSS feeds to. So it's the same. You can activate or deactivate them like that. Really, if you are using No Hands SEO for submitting RSS feeds, you're best to leave them all checked. It takes very little time really to submit to all of them, so you may as well. Link shorteners here. There's just a list of built-in link shorteners for you. There's hundreds of them there. If you're wanting to use a link shortening platforms, you may as well leave that active, because it's a good way of getting some quick and easy links. And some of them are actually really high page rank. Like I know there's a PR7 in there, and there's a bunch of PR4s and 5s in there. So really, if you want some quick, easy PR links, then link shorteners are a good way to go. Whois Sites, they're not the best quality links, but I've actually seen these ranking for some of my websites. Once I've started promoting them, after a couple of weeks I'll look in the search rankings, and the pages that I've created with these have actually been ranking towards the bottom of the first page, but still it's another position on the first page that is talking about your website. So it's not the best quality links, but ultimately, again, like the link shorteners, very easy links to get, very quick to post, so you can have them built if you want, or you can deactivate them just by unchecking them there. And again, once you've made any settings, click the Save Settings button and the settings will be saved and applied. Okay, now we're going to go to the block lists. This is what's used to prevent posting. So in the domain block list, this will prevent posting to any website with the following domains in it. So if there's a page that comes up for WordPress.com, it will block that post from happening, and what that does is it saves time posting to sites which would just remove your link anyway. Now, a lot of people do get in touch to ask why it's not attempting to post to WordPress.com. It doesn't mean that it won't post to WordPress blogs, which there's a hell of a lot more of. What it won't do is it won't post to so take the cheese wheel example, it won't post to cheesewheel.wordpress.com. And the reason for that is WordPress.com and the other sites, they all have a single comment system. So when you post to one, it knows that you've also posted to 10 others, and what it will do is it will quickly realize that those comments aren't genuine, and it will just block them, and then you'll carry on trying to post to them, and it may look like you're getting a link from them, but then when you go back and check, say a day later, it looks like those links have been removed, and what's happened is that those links were only ever active for a very short amount of time, and ultimately you're just going to end up spending a lot of time, a lot of wasted time trying to post to these sites. So I find it's far more efficient to just have the list there, prevent it from even trying to post to them, just to save time, really. Now, bad words filter, this is for adding in sort of, let's say you don't want links from sites with profanities or adult related or pharmacy drug related websites. You can put in whatever bad words filter you want in there, or whatever words you want to filter out, you can put them in there. If you're not sure of what to use, there is a list of defaults that you can just click defaults and it will input in a list there. Now, really, well, personally, I've never used a bad words filter. I've never had a website penalized or banned from the search rankings. It just has never happened to me. Now, I always put that down to using or promoting decent quality websites. So all of my websites have good content. Most of the time it's unique or at least rewritten, but there's always a good amount of content on there, and I try to use custom designs where possible. If I'm using a WordPress site or a CMS like that, then I'll use a template that isn't overly popular, and I may change a few things around, but ultimately I use decent quality websites, and I've never had a problem with getting links from sites with a bit of bit of adult language on there. You can put whatever words you want in there. Say you're promoting a Christian site, then yeah, you're probably not going to want links from adult sites or things like that, but using the keywords, the search keywords, you're not going to be getting many adult related websites unless you put in adult related keywords. So really that will do most of the work for you, but if you really want to be very strict, then you can put in whatever bad words you want in there, and again click the save settings to apply the settings. And now we have the spinners tab. When you're writing your own comments, and in a very near update when you're going to be writing articles, you may want to include the support of a spinner. So say you've got an account with Spinner Chief or Chimp Rewriter or Spin Rewriter or the Best Spinner. You can put in the username and password or the API details of that individual spinner, and then say you're using Chimp Rewriter, you'd put in your email address in there, and then you put in your API key, whatever that is, and then save the settings, and you could quick test. And what that will do is it will send off a quick test spin and just make sure that it returns back some spun content. Now, this isn't something that's necessary. This is more for your sort of power users. If you're not sure what any of them do, there is a What is Spinner Chief, Chimp Rewriter, etc. button. You can click on that. It will take you to the support forum where it will explain what each of them does. Ultimately, what they do is they allow you to automatically spin the comment or the article that you're wanting to use as your posting content. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. It's one of those things, again, that if you have it and you know you want to use it, the option's there. If you don't know what it is, you have no interest in it, then just don't use it. It's really that simple, and that mantra can be used for so many things in No Hands. You know, people get really caught up in so many different things, like, oh, what's best for this? How do I use that? What's that? If you don't understand what something is from the description of it, then you know, unless you talk in something as simple as anchor text when you're setting up your profile, but as for anything else goes, if you don't fully understand what something is, generally leave it as default. You know, I get so many emails saying, what's the best setting for this? What's you know, how should I be doing this? I'm doing this, is this right, is this wrong? Well, ultimately, if you're not sure, leave it set as default. You know, if you want to know what's best, generally the default option is best if you don't know that you want something different. So if you want the spinner, it's there. If you don't use it. Okay, so now last but certainly not least, we have the proxy setup. Now again, it's one of these forms with lots of controls which can be a bit overwhelming, but I'm going to briefly go through them now and try and explain why you'd use any of the individual settings. So say you don't know what proxies are, you don't know if you need to use them, how to use them, or anything like that. There is the built-in proxy harvester. So if you cannot afford something like No Hands Proxies, which goes for $57 at nohandsproxies.com, then your only real option is to use the built-in proxy harvester in No Hands SEO. Now, I wouldn't advise it personally, mainly because there's a lot of people using No Hands SEO these days, and they don't care about how usable the proxies are. So they'll load it up, they'll go to the More tab, bump up the search threads, bump up the posting threads, and go, yeah, use proxy harvester, and I want to use the proxies for everything, and hit the save button and then go. Now what that'll do is it'll quickly burn out the proxies. You won't be able to use them for searching very well. The posting rate will be low because the proxies are unreliable, and you'll spend a lot more, or No Hands will spend a lot more time searching for proxies than it will be actually posting your links. Now obviously, because the main idea of No Hands is to post links and get your rankings improving, you don't want it to spend a whole heap of time searching for proxies and things like that. So while the option is there to use the built-in proxy harvester, that really should be the absolute last resort for everyone. Now the next cheapest option would be to use something like No Hands Proxies to do the searching and checking of proxies for you. What it will do, what No Hands Proxies will do, is it will go out and find proxies for you. It will check that they work. Ultimately, it will check that they can be used for searching, and you'll be able to output them and use them for all different manner of things. Now $57 may sound like a lot, but when you're talking about renting proxies which can cost $1 a time per proxy per month, you know, really you're going to want at least 50 proxies, ideally more like 100 proxies, so you could be looking at least $50 a month for private proxies. Now if you're not sure what proxies are, I would go and read up on proxies, or even just have a look on nohandsproxies.com. You know, that should probably give you a gist of what proxies are and how you can use them. But ultimately, proxies hide your identity online. They make it harder for search engines to know who it is that's doing a search, which means that you can do more searches at once without getting your IP burnt out. And also, when you're posting links, if you're hiding your IP address, you're less likely to get linked with spam or anything like that. You're going to get more posts accepted, you're going to get more links accepted. So ultimately, you do want to be using some form of proxies. Cheapest option would be No Hands Proxies, but fastest, most reliable way would be using private proxies. Now, I realise for some this is probably going a bit over the head, but the most efficient budget option is to obviously use No Hands Proxies. And what you do is you have I'll actually get it up and show you quickly the options. Now, I'm not just trying to push my own tool here. You can use other tools such as Proxy Goblin, Proxy Multiply. I wouldn't really advise any other tool because they're just terrible, basically. In the past I have used Proxy Goblin, I have used Proxy Multiply, and while they're not terrible, all the other ones are. Now, I'm not trying to be melodramatic here, but all of the other proxy harvesters are terrible. I'm using No Hands Proxies here because in my testing, and you know, you can read online, almost everybody that's used other harvesters and use No Hands Proxies will attest that No Hands Proxies will get you the most Google Pass proxies. Now, what that means is that you'll be getting more proxies that you can use for searching. Now, as part of the output options of No Hands Proxies, you can output your proxies to a file. So in this example, I'd be outputting the proxies to my documents, No Hands SEO folder, and have it set to output proxies.txt. And I don't care about the anonymity of it, and I just want to output the Google search proxies. Now, I've already got that set up here. It's already doing that as an option. So what I want to do is I want to check use secondary proxies, because this is a list of public proxies. I wouldn't use it as the private proxies, I'd leave it as secondary proxies, and I'd want to check the option to continually update from file and then select that file. Okay, it's empty because I haven't had No Hands Proxies running. But what that would then do is load in the list of proxies that, in fact, I'll get it running and show you. Okay, so if I remember correctly, that should all be set up. So I'll leave that running while I go through this example, and then I'd set that to be used for searching, and if I had no other proxies, I would use them for posting as well. Ideally, I'd have at least some private proxies for posting, but in this example, I'm assuming that you don't have any proxies at all. Link checking, I certainly wouldn't, because when you're link checking, all you're doing is you're going to a website, you're viewing it as a visitor. You're not going to get your IP linked to any sort of posting, you're not going to get it banned or anything like that, and you've really got nothing to lose by not using any proxies for link checking. Now, for pinging, it's really up to you. I don't think it makes much of a difference if you use your own IP address for pinging, but you can if you want to. PR checking, it's the same. Really, if you're limiting by PR, then you need to be using proxies for PR checking. If you don't, then before too long, you're going to find that all of your page rank requests are going to be coming back as NA, which basically means no page rank. There's also the check proxies every X minutes option. This is more aimed at people with private proxies, because you've got No Hands Proxies, which is checking your proxies and sending the checked ones into direct to No Hands SEO. So you don't want to be using that for this option. I'm just going to check to see if, yeah, No Hands Proxies, it's got currently 163 working proxies, and you can see that that one's passed the website check, as has that, and so on. So what that will be doing is every, I think it's set to 1 minute, yeah, every 1 minute it will be outputting the proxies to a file. Let's see if it's output any yet. Yep, it's got 6, is that? Oh, 7. It's got 7 proxies so far that can be used for searching and posting if you'd like. So if all you can afford is a proxy harvester, you can use that. Ideally, you'd be able to afford, say, 5 or 10 private or shared proxies, which you could use as well. Now, what you may want to do there is put them into a separate list. So say you had these 5 proxies and they were private or shared proxies, and you'd want to use those for posting, not your public ones. You may want to use them for PR checking, though generally public proxies are actually pretty good at checking for PR, so you could do that. But if they're cheap ones, say you've got them from Fiverr or SEO Clerks or somewhere like that, and you're not too sure of their reliability, then you can check them every 30 minutes or hour. And what that will do is when you're when it's going through the posting process, it will automatically pull up the test proxies form. It will automatically check them. In this case, it's actually checking against the search engines, which it wouldn't necessarily do if it was doing an automatic one and you didn't have searching checked. So it knows to do that automatically. So once it's checked them all, it will put the results here, and you can see that all 5 of the proxies, I mean the random proxies that are pulled from that list, you'll see all 5 of them actually work in Google, which is great. That's what you want. So what would happen is it would then only use the ones that checked the, sorry, that passed the check. Now it won't actually remove any non-working ones. So say that one stopped working when it was checked after 30 minutes. Then next time it goes to check them, it would check all 5, and then if that one wasn't working and say that one wasn't working, it would only use those 3 for posting. And then after another 30 minutes it would check them again, and say if all of them were working, it would use all of them for posting. So you never actually lose the proxies from the list, it just only uses the ones which were working. Now I hope that's quite hope that's a bit clearer. So ultimately there is a video on how to get your proxies from No Hands proxies into No Hands SEO. It's on the support forum, and also if you look on my channel you'll find the video in there as well, which goes into how to do it step by step from No Hands proxies into No Hands SEO, and so you can use that video to really use that as a guideline. I'm going to be updating that as well, because No Hands proxies has been updated somewhat as well. I know that seems a bit daft that I do these videos and then things go and get changed, but all that means is that the software is just getting updated and improved all the time. So yeah, as I say, there is a video on how to do that from step by step, but ultimately it is quite simple. The only step you really need to be concerned about is make sure that you have continually update from file checked, use secondary checked, you choose your file, and that you're using them for searching. And obviously if you're limiting by PageRank, make sure that you have one set of the proxies being used for PageRank checking. Now the general proxy settings we have here, the load file delay. If you're using a proxy harvester and you're loading the proxies in from a file, this is the delay with which to use for loading those proxies in. So it's set at 60 seconds, so every minute it will load in the proxies. Now I haven't saved the settings yet, so that won't be applied, but if I save the settings you'll see that it's loaded in the most recent list of proxies, which is currently at 72. Now this is 72 proxies that can be used for searching. But that option there, that determines how often to pull to load proxies from that file. Now 60 seconds, that's a fine amount of time. You could set it higher if you wanted to only load the file every, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but you want to be loading it in relatively often so that the proxies aren't that outdated. Now you can remove bad search proxies. What that will do is whenever a search is done, if the search engine refuses the search based on the proxy, you can remove that proxy. Okay, it basically just means that if the proxy is no longer usable in that search engine, it will remove it. You can use that. It's not a problem to use that or to not use that. It's really a choice. Again, No Hands proxies will filter out the bad proxies, and it will recheck them every, I think it's set to 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Oh, it's set to 30 minutes at the minute. So it will weed out the bad ones automatically every half hour of running anyway, but you can use that to basically not use the bad proxy for the time being. You can reschedule search on a bad proxy, so say you do a search and the search engine comes back and says no, you've done too many searches from that IP address, then you can actually take that search job and put it to the back of the queue and reattempt it at a later date with hopefully a working proxy that time, so you're not wasting any searches. So you can set those or not, entirely up to you, and you can also set a minimum amount of proxies for searching. So say you know that you're running at say 10 search threads, then you might want to make sure that you're not using less than 50 50 proxies for searching, or you may want to just make sure that you're not getting down far too low and set that for 10 search proxies. Again, it's an optional thing. It's neither here nor there really. It's mainly for using private proxies. If you're using, say, 100 private proxies, you may put in 50 just to make sure that if you do find that you're in a position where you're getting less and less working proxies, that you're not getting too low, because if you're using far too many search threads with a bunch of proxies and they start getting burnt out and burnt out and burnt out, the less and less proxies you get, the faster they're going to get burnt out. So you might want to set that so that basically it gives your proxies a bit of a rest and prevents them all from getting burnt out. Now, as I've been waffling on about all that stuff, I don't know if you've noticed, but this number down here, this is how many search proxies we have. It's actually 140 now. This is how many proxies that No Hands Proxies has found that can be used in Google. Okay, see all these green ticks? All these green ticks are proxies that can be used for searching in Google. Now, if I was to be using private proxies and paying the roughly $1 a month per proxy, that'd be costing me well over $100 right now just for those proxies alone. So the $57 for No Hands proxies, though to some people may sound expensive, really it's going to pay huge dividends in the long run and save a lot of money. But not only is it going to be saving you money, you're actually going to be ending up with a lot more proxies than you'd have normally, which means you're going to be able to run with more search threads, which means you're going to get more targets to post to, which means more links. So really, I always used to be a huge champion of private proxies that are the best overall, and I used to actually rent out 200 proxies for searching and posting. I'd use all 200 for searching and for posting. But these days I don't do that. I have 20 proxies for posting, 20 private proxies that is for posting, and I have all of my searching proxies pulled from No Hands proxies, just because I can get far more proxies from that than I could buying them, and I get a lot more links now than I used to. So I'm saving myself, you know, I think about $160 I'm saving myself every month just by using a proxy harvester. Okay, so that is all of the settings for No Hands SEO. I realise it's been a huge mammoth video, but if you want to skip between the different tabs, you can use the links in the description for doing that. I may even split it up into individual videos, but some of the videos I'll be some of the tabs I'll be explaining in more depth in their own videos anyway at a later date. But yeah, I hope it's all been made a little bit clearer now. If there's anything that you're not too sure about, or if you feel like I've glossed over something that's important to you, by all means ask in the comments. I'm more than happy to help, and I will read all of the comments and reply as soon as possible. So yeah, if you've got any questions, any requests for videos in the future, or any feature updates for No Hands, then just get in touch. You can leave a comment, rate, you can even subscribe to the channel, or you can get in touch on the support forum at nohandsseo.com/forum. We've currently got a $20 discount going for No Hands SEO on the website, so if you head over to nohandsseo.com now, you can get it for $77 rather than the $97 that it's been selling for the last 3 years. You know, it's not just some offer where we say that we're selling it for, you know, $77 at a huge discount, or it's never been at a high price. It's been selling for $97 for the last 3 years, and we've only just dropped it down in the last 3 days, dropped it down $20 to $77. So you can get that at a discount rate now, and if you buy No Hands proxies at the same time, you can actually get that at a discount for just $27 if it's bought at the same time as No Hands SEO. So you can get a really good deal right now if you head over there and buy it now. But yeah, as I say, if you got any questions, by all means post them in the comments, and I'll do my best to reply straight away. Okay, this is Jim. I hope it's been useful for you, and I hope to hear from you soon. Okay, cheers.